On the 15th of September 2018, I embarked on a daunting journey. For the first time in 11 years, I said goodbye to Mum and boarded a plane. But this time, I was alone and heading to Auckland for the experience of a lifetime. I was about as mentally prepared as I ever would be, but nothing could ever really prepare me for what was to come. The reality of the situation never fully set in, not when I arrived in Auckland, not when I met up with the people I'd be spending the next 5 days with, not even when we all finally loaded onto the boat, chatted and ate, ready to set sail the next morning. After a long sleepless night in a small room, mostly filled with people whose names I didn't even know, the bright lights in our accommodation signaled the beginning of a new day. Day 1 was the day we set off on our journey through the waters. Loudly. But it was also, naturally, a day of learning, not only about the basics of sailing and knot tying, but about the crew, each other, and our new surroundings. We were split into 4 groups called watches. I was in Port B, PB, or peanut butter, as I remembered it, which actually caught on so much that even the crew referred to our watch as peanut butter by the end of the trip. We all bonded immediately through work and play. Since peanut butter was the first watch to partake in night watch, Asia and I were woken up in the middle of the night to carry out our fair share of the duty. With the chocolate, the muffins, the awesome people, and the fact that the boat didn't sink, it wasn't too bad. The 2 hours flew by, and I mean, I wouldn't exactly have been sleeping anyway. The morning of day 2 marked the day of our first 6:30 a.m. morning swim. And I wish I could say it was our last. The feeling of being engulfed by freezing water as your body tenses and your lungs constrict is something I can't say I particularly enjoy. But that short warm shower afterwards always made it feel at least slightly more worth it. This was followed by breakfast, chores, and then an embarrassingly slow-paced and uncoordinated first rowing session which led us into a trip to a beach. It was a miracle our watch even made it there, though, let alone back. Much of the remainder of the morning was spent hanging around, waving at strangers, and getting to know each other a little better. The afternoon, when we set sail again, was when everything fell apart for me. A torturous hour of consuming a fisherman's friend and half a ginger nut while simultaneously trying not to vomit ensued. Eventually, my nausea settled with the water, and I made it up in time to witness some crazy people jump in the water for a second time that day, while Selena and I, 2 sane individuals, bonded over pretty rope patterns. That evening was another group activity, but honestly, I was starting to feel a little drained, and I couldn't bring myself to fully participate. Also, I was on a team of cheaters.
Are you trying to get us disqualified?
In the end, this was our final result.
So this is my guy, Igman, and
He was but a simple feller. On day 3, I forgot my camera in the 5:30 a.m. rush from our accommodation to our raft. With slightly more coordination this time, we rode to an island where we traversed up to the top of a hill and observed the sunrise, apple cores in hand. Upon returning and after colours, which was when the groups came together to discuss the day's plans every morning, we completed our duties for the day. Despite being enjoyable, I could feel my energy depleting quickly. The smell of that banana cake really kept me going though. There was no wind, so there was no sailing. Instead, we played some deck games to kill time during the afternoon. And then there was sailing. And wind. And rain, which meant that we got to rock our stylish traffic cone outfits. Boating in style. And I got to climb, even though I had no idea what I was meant to be doing up there. I mean, at least I can guarantee that everyone saw me. After some of that heavenly banana cake, for the first time since setting foot on the ship, we were permitted some quiet time. This was where you could really tell the extroverts from the introverts. But 45 minutes wasn't enough for me, and as the rest of Peanut Butter continued to plan their idea for the performance every watch had to put on the last day of the trip, I felt myself losing all enthusiasm. By the evening, I was spent. I couldn't take it anymore. I just had to get away. I mean, of course I came back for dessert, but then I had to get away. What I didn't know is that they had snacks for the movie they watched. I would have pinched some of those too, man. On day 4, we were beckoned out of our bunks by the sound of music, which left me feeling like I was still dreaming. And looking like it, too. Look at those bags. The addition of music made the walk around the deck while we waited for everyone to get up that bit more bearable. I dodged the swim this morning in favour of not freezing to death, but some people were still more than keen. When everyone had dried off and eaten breakfast, we gathered for colours and cleaned. The best part of the morning was exploring the trash dump, aka my true home. Actually, I take it back. This was the best part of the morning.
This is a really sad
This was followed by a game of Spirit SingStar and the best lunch so far, hands down. That afternoon, even though a vast number of us had about 0 energy for expedition, we set off rafting, this time in random groups. Our pitiful group of 7 girls was no match for the waters, and we ended up needing a little bit of rescuing. Just a little bit. But we made it eventually, joining the rest of the traffic cones on the island. And so we explored for a little while, appreciating the freedom of not having to say sorry, excuse me, to somebody every time you move. After a tugging session, an encounter with a rare bird, and a vicious stick,
I just got absolutely mauled by that.
we practiced mindfulness for about 10 minutes. 10 hours would have been nicer, but still off we ambled back to our raft. Thankfully, this time we were towed all the way back to the boat. With muffins! Life on the ship had never been more luxurious. The evening consisted of more planning, reassurance, and the best part of the day, tea, all of which was much more enjoyable with the shred of energy that some nice scenery and tiny portions of alone time had replenished. The extra energy was especially useful during that evening's activity of Pirates of the Hauraki Gulf, which was a memorable experience, to say the least, even if peanut butter did lose pretty hard. Regardless, I was definitely ready for bed by the end of it. This is my last time climbing into this bunk and I don't know how I feel about that. The morning of the last day was a mixture of excitement and apprehension. I was feeling pretty good about my successful dodge of the morning swim by breakfast time. Gathering for the last colours afterwards, knowing that it was our final day together, put a bit of a damper on the mood. But what really cut this good feeling short was when, after a last little bit of performance preparation, sailing work, and a cookie, I was peer pressured, in the best way, into giving the swing a try. It was a lot higher than I thought it would be. The majority of the morning was spent diving, swimming, or freezing as I prefer to call it, and generally hanging out on the last day. Even the stress of trying to shove everything that I initially struggled to shove into my allocated drawer back into my bag in 20 minutes didn't completely kill the mood. But maybe that's just because I knew lunch was coming up. After my share of cleaning the wheelhouse, I was free to appreciate the serenity of the sea as we approached the wharf again, although admittedly I can't quite look at water the same way anymore now that I truly know how unforgivingly cold it is. Then, finally, it was time for our last group activity, the performance each watch had been working on for the past few days. The laughter and joyous mood in the aft cabin quickly became somber as the reality of heading home and parting ways set in. I think enough tears were shed during everyone's see you laters to sink the ship, but then we docked, and just like that, before it even started, it was over. All the days of the voyage really blended into one big day. It was an exhausting yet exhilarating experience that pushed my boundaries and taught me a lot about myself as well as life in general. Like the most important nugget of wisdom: no touchy the spongy. For those with the opportunity to participate in something similar, I have 3 words of advice. Unless you're in a Nike, and just do it. Even if only for the great food. Thanks again, Grandma. Oh, I also have 3 more words. Watch your head. The ceilings and doorways are unforgiving. And don't feel bad if you forget someone's name. They probably don't know yours either.